we're going to be talking about England. We're going to start off by talking about the eyebrows, right? Fucking hell. So I covered the UK racist riots, the race riots that are happening in the UK when these psychopathic fascists had decided England is our land, lads, blah, 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 like all this shit. England is our city, mate. But they've gotten extra riled up. We're going to be talking about all this stuff. Counter protesters actually showed up in massive numbers, showing once again to the entire planet that you only have your people. The only thing you have in the face of this kind of shit is solidarity. The only people you have looking out for you when the government is not, when the government is leaning into the right-wing sentiment, when the Labor government, the liberal, leftist, supposedly, government is leaning in to this kind of right-wing sentiment, the only people you have that will support you, that will defend you, is other people from any kind of background, really. It doesn't have to just be like other Muslims or other migrants or anything like that. You can see like white boys over here with the Jeremy Corbyn shirt on. You need other people to engage in community defense in times like this. And I'm really glad that they showed up in massive numbers, as counter protesters showed up in massive numbers, outweighing the psychopathic inbred fascists, sometimes 10 to 1, sometimes 100 to 1.
Newcastle United, black and white and brown.
We will not cower in the face of
Real Geordies are not fascists.
racism, bigotry, violence, extremism, and hate.
That the message of hundreds of anti-racism protesters in the city centre this morning, a city which, notably, has escaped disorder thus far.
Obvious question, but why? What's brought you on the street?
For 5 reasons: diversity, inclusion, equality, freedom, justice for everybody.
I wanted to come here today with all these hundreds of people to make that clear that the Nazis and the right wing are unwelcome here in Newcastle.
Majority of my community are not here, and it's for one reason.
And local Imam Ali Assad said police advised his community to stay away to reduce tensions.
Yeah, dude. Hey, sorry. These people are trying to kill you. So it would be nice if you just like hid. The fuck do you mean, bro? What do you mean? Like, no, your job in that situation is to, get the guys who are saying we're gonna hunt Muslims down and arrest them. You know what I mean? You're supposed to defend the people standing up to the racists. Who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. Absolutely.
The plan that we've worked with the local authorities is that our community members will be protecting all places of worship, like even the Hindu temple and the Gurdwaras as well. It's not just the mosque.
Police established a cordon separating the large crowd from this. A group of less than 50 gathered with Union and St George flags to protest, they said, against immigration.
They're leaving their women and children at home. If they were that frightened for their safety, they'd send their women and children and fight for their country back.
How do you know they're on?
Bro, one of the best things to do in this circumstance is just to do hogwatch and honestly let it rip. Some of the best content. I know that like things seem very dark, especially if you are a black or brown person living in the UK, if you're a Muslim person living in the UK, if you're Arab living in the UK, and you're like, what the is going on? Shit is out of control crazy. But I'm not gonna lie, dude. Watching British hogs just like not realize how insane they sound has been incredible. You could just put a camera on them all day, every day and follow them around. I would watch that shit 24/7. I'm not kidding. Like, I thought our hogs are fun and entertaining and cool. Like, you got the fucking Heil Titler guys. You got the fucking Meal Team 6 guys, right? You have like different varieties of hogs in America. British hogs, I think, are of a very specific variety where they actually break the mold, even from like American cognition, where we look at British people here in the United States of America and we think like, oh, they're intellectual. They have always been presented as like the nerdy people in movies and stuff. So like there is an air to like listening to the British accent. Like there's an air of like intellectualism that is associated here in America for the British accent. Not for these hogs, bro. They are so stupid. Like stupid. They completely destroyed like years and years of American media showing British people as like smart intellectual nerds. They have done it. They have successfully destroyed it. Every time I see an EDL guy, I'm like, how can they be so fucking dumb? Some of my favorites have been the guy being like, they're taking off fucking jobs, lad. And then the woman will be like, well, have you tried to get a job? He's like, no, I haven't tried to get a job. And then she'll be like, oh, what's the reason? He's like, it's because I just got out of prison for burglary and assault, but they're taking off fucking jobs. It's like, bro, what are you saying? Fix your life, big dog. Yeah, I did some time in a fucking bin. I did some time in a fucking bin for a murder, but honestly, they're taking off fucking jobs. I wouldn't have done the murder. Like, they are so oblivious. I don't know what they did that like led them to think that voluntarily revealing this information wouldn't make you look like a complete moron. But the lack of recognition, the lack of self-awareness is incredible. It blows my mind. I think Margaret Thatcher should be unearthed from her grave for the unimaginable crimes that she has committed for England in general. She is Ronald Reagan, but for England. What she did to the North, what she did to like labor strongholds, what she did to labor in your country, if you're British, the consequences are so devastating. Because like all these people that I'm making fun of right now, they all were just like regular jobbers. They were regular old people. Their social safety nets crumbled. Their jobs went away. They got destroyed, and they just sat there with so much anger and resentment. And then somebody came in and was like, yeah, it's actually black people, it's actually brown people, it's actually Muslims, it's actually Muslims. That's the reason why you don't have a job anymore. And it's like, as someone who lives in the North, these people are like dogs. They don't work and bitch and moan all day down. The local about immigrants, no GCSEs or qualifications is sad because the majority of them are caught in a cycle of poverty, but there are no mechanisms to pull out. Our schools are really underfunded, and so are social mobility support. Their hate is bred from a lack of exposure to other people. 100%. This is West Virginia. Like, this is Appalachia. They're not like a unique breed, okay? This is just what happens as a defense mechanism, as a way to like generate a sense of entitlement for yourself when you have no other outlet, when you have nothing. You've been given no training programs, you've been given no options to like work. It's not like these people wouldn't work if they had the opportunity, but they've become like hateful little demons who are now just like unleashing on other people who are born out of the same material conditions as they are. They just look different. Nobody is born racist. Nobody. Remember that. It is all a byproduct of the material circumstances that you're subjected to, the material conditions that you're born into. The social conditioning is how you become racist. That's it. And these guys have nothing. And the only people that are reaching out to them and trying to help them use their anger and resentment and frustration. They capture their resentment and anger and frustration, and they launch it upon people who are trying to make a living. I mean, I called that this was going to happen with the Keir Starmer election, but I'm shocked at how quickly they seized on this, and I'm kind of shocked that the EDL has this much play still. I did not think that Tommy Robinson would make a comeback this hard, this fast.
And the exploitation of our country.
People say, but are you a racist, sir?
Whoa!
That's what people say. People accuse the...
Whoa!
Yeah,
Whoa!
No, that's
Whoa.
what they accuse.
Dog, why are you Sig Heiling? He said, whoa, am I a racist? Well, I've only done Sig Heiled a couple times now. I don't know why I'm doing an indecipherable accent here, but this English girl got Trump tattooed on her head. Yo!
Obviously, people are asking why I got this tattoo. At the end of the day, I absolutely love and appreciate what Trump has done for America. I think he's an absolute great person, and I just feel like he needs to be appreciated.
It's got to be fake. It's got to be a fake tattoo. But even as a bit, even as a fake tattoo, doing this is so insane. Oh my God. I think British hogs might be stupider than American hogs. What happened to your public schools, man? It's evident that these race riots didn't happen down south. Ask the average Southern what their opinion on immigrants, and they'll give a completely different answer to up here. The South has so much more money than us. It's like a completely different world. First time I went to a London suburb, it was like living in another world. Their state schools are better than the private schools up north. It's insane, the gap of education. Yes. And also, you do have to remember, there's also significantly more diversity down south as well. It's the same rural-urban divide in the United States of America that also occurs in England as well. By the way, for those of you in America that are not familiar with this, the North is like former labor towns, you know, working class background for the most part, labor stronghold for the most part, whereas like the South was where the Tories were, like a lot more wealth there. England's entirety, like the entirety of the wealth in England comes from the South, specifically from London, specifically from like the finance sector. There's not much left in the British economy overall, considering that the entirety of the UK, the entirety of the UK was basically just run on colonialism. Even most British and Europeans don't know this, but parts of England are poorer than southern Italy and Sicily, which is insane. England as a whole, I think, is like poorer than some of America's poorest states. England is a very, very poor country. You take London out of the equation, it is like straight up third world conditions. Like people don't really think about that. People don't really consider that at all in the calculation. Bro, we aren't that poor. No, absolutely. England absolutely is that poor. What do you mean? It's so depressing. We can't get out of the spiral. We were the coal mining industry. All the wealth left when the mines closed. London generates approximately 22% of the UK's GDP from Wikipedia. I don't know why you're getting offended at this, because America has parts of America that are also resembling third world-like conditions. I don't know why the would get mad at this. It is just our government's literally robbing us blind. It has nothing to do with you or your personal experience at all. It had everything to do with mismanagement and horrifying austerity that your own leaders have subjected you to, similar to what has happened in the United States of America. In the aftermath of the Cold War, neoliberalism, uncontested, has basically created colonial conditions internally. It is created internal colonies. It has basically brought back the colonial ambition and rampant exploitation back into the mainland. That's it. It spread inward rather than outward in the way that, you know, England and United States is still doing that, the outward stuff too, but like doing it inward as well. It's the same exact attitudes. Neoliberalism has people convinced that being poor is a moral failure. They think you're calling them losers for pointing out their exploitation is wild. Yeah. If you want to understand all of this anger, resentment, and frustration, this guy is pretty correct on it. UK is dealing with a healthcare crisis, a housing crisis, transport crisis, food production crisis. Streets are filthy, can't get a job, shithole, I live here. Exactly. 14 years of Tory austerity. Look where the you are now. You know what I mean? That's part of the reason why Keir Starmer, who had the charisma of a wet noodle or a blanket, a wet blanket, still was able to put numbers on the goddamn board as a consequence of the past 14 years. Healthcare crisis? Yes. The NHS is severely underfunded. The NHS is so severely underfunded that when Boris Johnson was running last time around, he ran on funding the NHS. He lied. He lied. Of course he lied. But he still ran on it, which is to show you that the right wing of the UK was even cognizant. Brexit was not just sold on racist lies about Polish people stealing your jobs, or, you know, brown and black people and Muslims stealing your jobs, but also on the lie that England was sending too many funds to the EU and getting nothing in return, and that all of that money was going to go back to the NHS. Like, people recognize, in a place like England, people still recognize social safety nets as a necessity, except their leadership never gives back to those social safety nets. This is why, in the immediate aftermath of the Labour victory, what did I tell you? I said the thing to pay close attention to is the rise of reform. That is crazy. That means there's a lot of people who are completely hostile to black and brown people existing and coexisting in their neighborhoods. That means that there are so many people who directly attribute their dire material circumstances to England no longer being white. Because that's exactly what reform ran on. They were just straight up like, we're more racist than the Tories. That's what they ran on. Fascism thrives in shitty economic circumstances, and austerity creates shitty economic circumstances for the working class. if Keir Starmer still operates with the same austerity principles, which he said he was going to do, then this problem is going to get out of hand. If Keir Starmer leans into the anti-immigrant sentiment, this problem is going to get out of hand. And that's precisely what's happening. Keir Starmer has been operating on the anti-immigrant principles. That's precisely what he did. When the Labour Party, that is expected to be a counterweight, a counterbalance to the right-wing anti-immigrant sentiment, is also operating with anti-immigrant sentiment and capitulating to the far right on this issue, of course, these people are going to feel way more confident in their idiotic position, not recognizing that I think the majority of the NHS is comprised of, you know, people who aren't white British. Can you imagine? Oh, we're going to get these non-whites out of here, man. We're going to get these migrants out of here. It's crazy. You have no country without that, dude. What are you talking about? Literally everything in this whole thing America has experienced extensively throughout the past 8 years. Yes. Look to England for what the American future is going to resemble if the Democratic Party doesn't get their shit in order in terms of how to communicate about the quote unquote migrant problem. Labor completely capitulated to the right wing on this issue. When you do that, when you lean on this shit, when you make it seem like, yeah, you're right, actually, it's migrants, when all of those people that might look a little bit different than you have the exact same ambitions that you have. They want a roof over their heads. They want food on their tables. They want a better life for their children. That is literally the exact same. They probably hate their bosses just like you do. It's the same exact shit. And people are just desperately running away from that reality. They are trying their very best to not see it. How do you explain the prevalence of racism among the upper and middle class then? Shouldn't they be woke? They have amazing lives. Please answer. Bro, racism isn't just born out of like, it's still the same social conditioning that upper middle class and rich people also experience as well. It's not only if you're poor. I've never said that only poor people are racist.
I actually asked this individual, what exactly is it that you're here to protest against? And he didn't have a straight answer. In the end, he said, we're fed up with the police. And I said to him, shouldn't the protest maybe be outside the police station instead of the mosque then? And he actually agreed with me and said, yeah. And then we realized. So
that's the other thing. Like anyone that is trying to make this seem like it's anything but like rampant Islamophobia, rampant white supremacy, they're delusional. And I've seen it in the British media as well. I have seen it in the British media. Part of the reason why I've seen it in the British media, basically like repackaging this as like, oh, anti-immigrant protesters, like not openly stating that they are genuinely Islamophobic. Part of that is because the media has whipped up these people in a frenzy. Make no mistake, this is not like an anti-cop or like anti-government protest. Mate, you're delusional. You think I'm delusional for saying that these protests that literally target mosques, like one of the first things that they did beyond trying to light a hotel, the exit of a hotel that was known to have migrants, it's kids mostly. There is something absolutely nutty about some people. Name one mosque they attacked. Name one mosque they attacked. What do you mean? 43-year-old man was charged with racially aggravated criminal damage after a mosque was targeted. An item was thrown at the window in Shaftesbury Street, Newport, about 7 BST on the 1st of August at Gwent Police. A man from Newport was due to appear at the city magistrate's court on Friday. Following a week of racist rioting across other areas of the UK, police said it was deeply concerning. Yeah, a 43-year-old kid did that. Also, the video that we're looking at is literally a protest outside of a mosque. This guy is talking about one of the protesters. Why are you protesting outside of a mosque if you hate the police? I think, yeah, was it the Southport mosque? There was like one of the first major incidents was when they literally attacked a mosque. The very first attacks. Who are the rioters and what jail sentences have they received? This is from 1 day ago. Look at all these kids, dude. A lot of people don't want to face the reality. Misinformation is a major problem here. They're just on Facebook. They're on Twitter. They see some of the most psychotic nonsense. These are the types of people who literally believe like AI images. They see like AI images of like a beautiful blonde girl wearing a full burqa. And they go, oh, this is what's going on in England. It's not, mate. I'm losing it. In England, we got to defend it. Like they are Like, they basically have sub-zero IQ. They literally believe AI images, dude. Like, how do you deal with a person like that? Douglas Murray called for violence too. Of course he did. He's a right-wing freak. Regular BBC contributor Douglas Murray. If the army will not be sent in, then the public will have to sort this out themselves, and it'll be very brutal. I don't want them to live here. I don't want them here. They came under false pretenses. He's not talking about the racist rioters that need to be dealt with. He is talking about black and brown people.
Now, is it time to send in the army at some point? Probably yes. But if the army will not be sent in, then the public will have to go in. And the public will have to sort this out themselves.
He's talking about the public sorting out migration.
It'll be very, very brutal.
By the way, massive Zionist, massive defender of Israel. That's another part of the story that I haven't even gotten to. The British government, under Tory leadership, and even under Labour leadership, really, is super aggro towards anyone that says free Palestine. But they really, really lower their interest of like doing their due diligence, you know, upholding the rule of law when it comes to psychopathic, rabid fascists.
Many of them broke into our house illegally. Many of them were never wanted here. And they have come here. They have betrayed all of our attempts at hospitality. They've spat in our faces.
Yeah, dude. By what? Fucking bringing halal food? Like actually using the seasoning? Like, what do you mean? Oh, they've spat in our faces. They're disrespecting us by existing around our white skin. Shut the fuck up. I hate these monstrous pieces of shit, dude. See, this is the posh racist, okay? There's the obviously like the Faligalan style racist who has no teeth. And then this is the posh racist. This is the other side. Old school fascism. Tory to the bone. Anyway, Europe invasion. Elon Musk, this is the UK.
Yes, this is good. And again. That's it. And again. Try and breathe. Relax.
Some badass British patriots. Elon Musk found this pic of the UK justice system. Bro, this man is a straight up white supremacist, dude. A straight up white supremacist. There's no ands, ifs, or buts. You know his ass is begging for Rhodesia, but he's just like too much of a coward to openly state it, so he has to do these like memes to sneakily do it. Yeah, cuck porn is also a giveaway, obviously. Racialized cuck porn, a fan favorite of white supremacist losers. You watch The Hunger Games and sided with the Resistance. You watch Star Wars and sided with the Resistance. You watch The Matrix and sided with the Resistance. You watch Divergent and sided with the Resistance. You watch V for Agenda. When it's fiction, you understand, yet you refuse to see it when it's the reality you're living in. Wild. First of all, every single one of those circumstances, it's like, is this like a pro-Hamas take? Like, what's he saying here? Because I know his ass is pro-Israel to the fucking bone. What do you mean? Do you think the Resistance are the fucking dumbass inbred racists on the streets? As a billionaire, do you think you are closer to the villains in these fictional works, or are you closer to the Resistance? Seems like a normal pin post. The origin of the word slave is Slav, which is referred to white people taken as slaves. Yes, dude, the real slavery is happening, and it's happening to white people. Oh my God. He's about to make cracker an illegal term to say on Twitter. I swear to God, he's like one step removed from that shit. Yeah, Tyler K went to prison and lost his house for copying a post on X. Tyler was sentenced to 38 months in prison for copying a post made on X by Lucy Connolly. This is messed up. Elon is defending someone who called for hotels filled with refugees to be burned, a call for direct violence, which, by the way, they did do that. They tried to burn a hotel with migrants in it. What do you mean?
But do you accept some of these people have been racist at these demonstrations?
There definitely is racism, but I don't think it's meant with ill intent. And I'm not talking about the organisers of the event, by the way, because they are troublemakers and they want to turn races against each other and communities against each other. But I honestly believe, and this is what I've witnessed, that the vast majority of people who've been protesting against Islam, against the Muslim community, I genuinely believe that they are beautiful human beings who were driven after Southport by their emotions, mixed together with a lot of toxic narratives they've been seeing in the media and online, especially during the election campaign. And I think it's bubbled up, and they've wanted ultimately to change a bad situation, what they perceive, whether it's based on ignorance or not. They've wanted to change a perceived bad situation into a good situation.
This bridge building hasn't just stopped at food handouts. Protesters have been invited into the mosque, and tomorrow they've invited Adam and some of his fellow worshippers on a day trip to Wales.
We're going to leave our phones on the coach, and we're going to walk out, and we're going to force people to walk and talk together. He said one of those coaches I want to give to you and the Muslim community to join us. So tomorrow morning we'll be heading up into the hills and we won't be seeing any of these toxic narratives on social media, and we'll be able to meet each other, walk together, talk together, and we'll be doing our prayers, and they'll be doing some meditation, and I'm really looking forward to it.
He is a imam in London or in England. Of course he's like, and he's super telegenic. Obviously he's going to be nice about like the people trying to murder him, because the media is insanely hostile. I don't think you guys understand. The media is unimaginably hostile to Muslims. I showed you a conversation that I think she was a labor minister talking to another former labor minister who's now a political commentator, where she's like, why won't the media call this what it is? It's Islamophobia. And like the guy was literally like, no, it's not. It's actually valid to have those points of view. Like basically he was like defending the idea. Zara Sultana was the one talking to the former labor minister who's like married to a current labor minister. And he literally was like defending the principle behind like anti-immigrant sentiment and why the media should not. Yeah, the presenter is married to the Home Secretary. The British media, and I've talked about this so much, but British media is insane. Like British media is absolutely worse than American media. I've said this quite a bit. You don't understand how demon-like British media is. They've been inflaming tensions nonstop, and the Labour Party has also absolutely leaned on this shit. Now, for those of you who are new to the story, maybe unfamiliar, in Southport, there were mass stabbings that occurred where 3 children were killed and 10 others were injured. 9-year-old Elise Da Silva Aguar, 6-year-old Baby King, 7-year-old Elise Stancombe died after sustaining serious injuries when a knife man entered Heart Center during a Taylor Swift-themed dance class on Monday, 29th of July. 8 other children suffered stab wounds and 2 adults were also critically injured. Normally in the UK, they don't release information until a conviction comes out about who the criminal is, especially if the person responsible for the crime is underage, which in this circumstance, the mass stabber was underage. Immediately, fake news ran with it all over social media and started saying they're hiding who the stabber was because he's a migrant of Muslim background. Some people were claiming that he was an undocumented migrant of Muslim background. Turns out none of those things are true. The stabber actually was from a Christian family and was born in Wales. He was a Welsh Christian. He was black, but he was a Welsh Christian. Or Rwanda, not Ethiopian. I thought he was Rwanda, but someone said he's Ethiopian in the chat. My apologies. And he also had like obviously significant mental health problems. All of that was completely fucking made up, but it did not matter. Just like with the Imam Khalif situation, immediately they ran with these false narratives. And it took up in a country like England that has been struck by austerity for so many years, where there is so much instability, so much poverty. Both parties, including Labour, running on right-wing anti-immigrant sentiment. Everyone was primed for like any kind of pivotal moment. And at a time when we see right-wingers basically lose their fucking minds, right? On things that are utterly delusional, okay? Completely delusional, completely nonsensical. It doesn't matter what the truth is. What matters is how people feel. What matters is how many people will lean on this new narrative born out of hysteria that corresponds to their biases. Just like with the Imam Khalif situation, Algerian female boxer Imam Khalif is a woman. She was assigned female birth, born a woman, always been a woman, right? And yet people decided she was not a woman. And so many people fucking ran with that narrative and still go off on this narrative that she is not a woman. Now a gold medalist, by the way. And no amount of proof, which shouldn't even be necessary in this circumstance, is like crazy. No amount of proof would get people to actually believe the reality in front of their eyes. They don't care. Nobody cares about the truth anymore. They simply care about their feelings, and they simply care about how certain things make them feel. They simply care about leaning on narratives that correspond to their own biases. But this story is not simply about like a Christian person doing this stabbing, because like even if it was a Muslim migrant that engaged in the stabbing, that still would be unimaginably inappropriate to just like run on this race riot. Like, it would be completely unacceptable. It's actually crazy that we've moved past like instances of violence that like people commit, and then that being attributed to the entire marginalized population, to just like, oh, I just felt like this was the population that is at fault.
Why have I got my son? He got shot at army. He was in Duke Wellington Regiment, and he was in Kosovo, and he got shot. Yeah, a lot of his friends I've had to put up and rehouse because they can't get housing. They're living on streets. They don't get put up in five-star hotels. Perhaps it's not refugees that we should be protesting against. It's the way they're looked after.
Yeah, dude, they're living mint, dude. Notice how the rhetoric is identical in America? Oh, we got the f***ing homeless people here. Why don't we look after them? We put the migrants in five-star hotels.
And this is what the problem is with this country, lefties. They've caused this problem. They've let them in. Yeah, that's what the problem is, lefties. I hate lefties. I've never been to politics up to 2 years ago. Yeah, I've never voted in my life up till this year. Yeah, my first vote this year, I voted for reform. It was YouTube that brought me to the attention of what's going on in this country and the votes. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known.
We're on YouTube as well. What kind of things were you watching? Do you know the names of the channels?
Just your normal everyday bloggers, you know what I mean? That's all it was. And the mainstream media are just liars, absolute liars.
I love that he's just like pointing to the steps of his radicalization. Identical to America, by the way, because hogs are universal. There's a beautiful universality to the song and dance that hogs play. The squeals that you hear from these piglets. It's always the same shit.
And these lot have sold us out as well. Targeting us as right-wing. We're not right-wing. You know what I mean? We're just normal people.
Bro, you voted for reform. What do you mean you're not right-wing, bro? You are here to do an anti-immigrant protest. Like, the cognitive dissonance here is out of control.
I mean, look at London. You can't go in. I've been to London once in my life because it's absolutely a terrible place. You know what I mean? And you go to London now, and if you're of white descent, you get stabbed. If you're of black descent, you get stabbed. I mean, most of them are blacks that stabbing each other through drugs. You know what I mean? And Sadiq Khan does not will lie to everybody.
Bro, it's literally exactly the same. Never been to California. Thinks that, like, you will get stabbed instantly. I went to California one time, bro. I went to Los Angeles one time. Couldn't even park my F-150 pickup truck in any of the goddamn parking spaces. Them Latinos are stabbing each other left and right. They're shooting everything. The entire stores are burned to the goddamn ground, brother.
He's a liar. And he's a Muslim. Why have we got Muslims in a Christian country? In power? I don't understand it. It's wrong.
Bro, he is progressively getting more and more unhinged. How do you deal with that guy? Mask is slipping. Yo, you think this guy is moderating his position to come across normal? Are you insane? No, he's just a f***ing idiot. Chatter. That person is not like, oh, I'm not racist, and then like starts progressively getting more and more racist because he's like trying to hide his power level or whatever. No, he's just that f***ing stupid. He literally said, why do we have a Muslim in a Christian country?
You've got to feel disgusted over it. And don't keep putting it down to racism. It's not about racism. I've got plenty of black friends, plenty of Asian friends. Look, it's about what's ours.
Bro, that is an Iraqi uncle, bro. How is that guy white? I know people from my region, bro. That is not a white guy. I literally thought he was about to talk about how, like, he is from Iraq. Like, straight up. Bro, put a cigarette in one hand and prayer beads on the other hand of this guy. He is not out of place in a hookah shop. What the is this guy? What is this guy? What is he? I need to understand. No, like, actually, what the This dude's name straight up is Osama. Like, he is not, like, Ahmed, Osama, Mohammed. There's no, you will never convince me that that is not an Arab man.
What do you make of the police response? Because in some ways, one possible criticism of it was that...
Isn't that girl the girl that, like, had a fucking phenomenal take? I think that she went viral, right?
Been recently talking, Tony Robertson and so on, about two-tier policing. And you've seen some really quite severe responses by the police, kettling groups of the far right.
Bro, she's just waiting. She's just waiting. She's waiting to pop off. Look at this.
Over there.
Play with matches. That's what happens. If you come here looking for violence and not looking for peaceful protest, then unfortunately you're going to face the law. And what happens to people who decide to say their views, say their opinions in a way that is not productive, not helpful to anybody, and that makes people who are vulnerable, makes people who are from the most vulnerable minorities in society, make them feel scared and frightened, and that's not what we're about. We've got a bar over there that's Brazilian, favela. We've got Pizza Americano, which if you're from Barnsley, it's an absolute stronghold of after a night out, everybody's getting a pizza from there, owned by people who are not from Barnsley, foreign people. Soul Lounge, not British, not Barnsley. Everything in this town has got some contribution from non-British, non-Barnsley people. Half our Barnsley team are not British, and we love it. The immigrants make our society better. They're what make us better as people and make us proud to be British. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of people making the small minorities in society the scapegoat for all the problems. Your problems are from classism. Your problems are from the top down, people making us feel small because we're working class. But I'm proud to be working class, and I'm proud to be anti-racist working class as well, and I will not have it in my town.
Brilliant. That was fire.